Well, hello everyone, and yeah, I'm live now. Okay, hi everyone, and welcome to the Human and Wildlife Show once more. And I'm here with our wonderful host, Georgia Oteri. Georgia, how are you?
Hi Christian, and welcome to everyone. Oh yeah, Christian, you should throw up the chat so that people can see. You
I
know to
will.
turn,
I'm
yeah.
going to do it now. There we go.
We have and so yeah. Hi Frankman, hi David Howden, hi Isa, and yeah, special hello to our people joining from Twitch because for the first time we are streaming to Twitch along with YouTube and Facebook. Um, I am a little bit confused about how it's working with Twitch because can you Christian, can you add the chat to the screen still?
The chat to the screen, I
Yeah.
probably can, like overlay. You want it like this?
Yeah, like that. All right, now that any additional comments that come in now, they should start
Will
showing
come
up
up.
there.
Yeah, yeah.
So
There we
yeah,
can.
I want to see. I'm
Yeah.
curious to make sure that they all come. Hi Sean. Hi Frankman. Um, it's a little bit confusing because when I go and look at the Twitch stream, oh, it is the correct title now. Okay, that was so weird. Before on Twitch, it had something, the title was something about like an osprey nest, like live cam osprey nest, and now it is the correct title,
Really?
which is,
That's
yeah,
weird.
sea life thriving on ocean's plastic waste. So I'm not sure what that was about,
Here
but
we go. Now we see the comments. Okay,
yeah.
there we go. Good, good, good.
Yeah. So it's like the comments, once you add the comment overlay, it doesn't do the ones that were like entered in before. Hi, David Dunn. Hi, Mary Jo. Yeah. And so our topic today is about plastic pollution and the ocean. Christian picked the topic. So, I mean, I thought it was a pretty interesting one though, because I've been seeing like a lot about it in the news and it's something that I don't know, just think a lot about in general. So I guess our first question to people in the comment section is if you've heard of this before, these like giant like accumulations of plastic pollution in the ocean, and if so, like what do you think causes them? I'm kind of assuming that most people probably have heard of them, but like why does all that plastic come together in such big clumps?
Before we
Um,
do that, let's just answer
yeah.
David Dunn's question. Hi,
Yeah.
Isa. Very nice to see you, and thanks for helping us. David's asking you, how are you doing, Georgia? Fully recovered? Well, you
I
answered that
am,
question.
yeah. I am fully recovered from my COVID stint. Yeah. And definitely like feel free to put in your answers like as we're addressing these other questions and stuff. Yeah, I'm fully recovered from my COVID stint now. Um, I am having like a pretty good like summer, I guess I would say. It's finally warming up here in Michigan and so I have, I guess, some residual laziness though that I kind of want to blame on COVID, but I don't know that it's really fair to. I think it's just like nice out and warm, and I don't want to work, so I'm having trouble focusing. And I'm like, oh man, that COVID, it's still just so tired, but I don't think that's it. Um, and how are you doing, Christian?
I'm actually doing very well. I'm always full of energy. I work 7 days a week. I shouldn't say that, but I really just love what I do. That's the problem, maybe, or maybe my luck. So I'm doing very well. Thank you. It's- it's- Okay. Well, let's jump into the topic. Okay. So let's jump into the
Right.
topic. Maybe the
Well, I do want to wait. I want to plug one thing real quick. Sorry, the
okay.
Facebook page. We have a Facebook page now just for the
Oh,
show. So be sure to follow that if you join. If you're like a Facebook joiner, that will hopefully be easier to sign up like for notifications when we go live. Like that Facebook page will be a little bit more devoted to just like when we go live. And as we move forward and like start bringing on more guests, maybe more international guests, the show we might start popping on at more like different times of day in the future. So you definitely want to make sure that you're subscribed to notifications like wherever you prefer to watch from. Yeah, and then hi everyone who's jumping in here. We had comment from Lore, hello. Um, Hazy or Hazy, welcome. Kit Kat, Debsa,
mhm.
John, thank you. It's so great to have everyone. And so yeah, we did have a comment that I believe David Howden was saying that he'd heard of this patch.
That's right. That's what we're going to talk. Don't mention too much about it because he's getting actually really to the point. I was just reading it. You're absolutely right, David. We'll get to that. Yes.
Oh,
Because that was going to be one of my quiz questions, which you just answered.
Oh, well, his comment is hidden now. It's been pushed down, so it's hidden. Yeah. So, well, I had one big question, which is like, why can't when I go to Google Earth and I turn on the satellite view and I go to where this Pacific Ocean garbage plastic patch is supposed to be. It's supposed to be about halfway between California and Hawaii. I go there and you can't see anything, even though this thing is supposed to be like twice the size of Texas or something, which is a huge.
That's right, twice the size of Texas. That's it. Yes.
Yeah, it should definitely be visible, this area where all this plastic is accumulated, and yet it's not. And that's because a lot of the plastic is actually floating kind of just like a little bit just below the surface of the water. I actually don't know. Can I share my screen?
Yes, you should.
Oh yeah, here we go. Here we go. I'm just going to share the entire screen because I'm lazy.
Go.
For a minute, and then you have to turn it on in the left bar. So
sorry, you're right. I always forget. Yes.
Oh, you're fine. I'm still. Now it'll take me a second to. Where did I put this thing? Oh yeah, here. This picture is showing how you can see all these like pieces of plastic just kind of hovering below the surface. So that's what it looks like. That's why you can't see it. So, but why is all the yeah, that's right, David. You're spoiling it. She's smart.
Too smart.
Yeah, so why is all the plastic accumulated there? Christian, that's a question for you or other people. Yeah.
So why is it? Okay, let's get into the topic then. Let's get right into the topic. Okay, great.
I guess I'm trying to get at the ocean currents, right?
Yeah. So that's exactly where we're going to jump in. I'm going to share my screen now. Just wait a second. Let me do this. Okay. So here we go.
Oh yeah.
So I hope you can see this. Okay. So let's jump right into this. 1 second. I'm just going to pull up my notes here. Just wait. Give me a second here. Okay. So this is very interesting. So basically, I mean, you've all heard of ocean currents, obviously, right? I mean, they are very important. They determine our weather and many other things, and all the oceans are obviously interconnected. We actually have only one ocean. The rest is just nomenclature, and that is quite important because we basically have these so-called gyres, and they are whirlpools of water. And the way we're going to use the word gyre here is in the sense that it's going to be used for trapping huge amounts of plastic. That's the definition here we're going to use for a gyre, right? And they are basically 5 large swirling ocean gyres. The largest one, Georgia already mentioned, that is the Great Pacific Gyre, which is about twice the size of Texas. So we have 3 types of gyres. We have the tropical one, the subtropical, and the subpolar. Let's start with the subpolar, which is not actually shown on the map. And that they sit sort of in the areas of low atmospheric pressure. You're talking here about regions of Iceland, Greenland, the Aleutians, where I've been, of course. Northern reaches of Scandinavia, the 60 degrees latitude, Asia, and North America. And then you come to the tropical gyre. That would be this one here, the tropical gyre. And those are actually not affected by the Coriolis effect. If you don't know what the Coriolis effect is, because the Earth is turning, we have what we call an apparent force. It's not in that sense a real force. It is a real force in a sense, but it is an apparent force. It is if you're trying to walk on a merry-go-round straight, and you would see what your path is. It's not going to be a straight line. It's actually a curve, and that's exactly what happens due to the rotation of the Earth. There are forces that are that are causing east-west deviations from a straight line, and they are causing all the currents and the winds that we typically know. And so there are no real forces on the equator, and that causes really some forces only to go to the east-west direction. And then, of course, the most prominent ones are the so-called subtropical gyres, and that's the Great Pacific gyre, the North Atlantic one, the South Atlantic one, and also the Lesser Pacific gyre, and they are the big ones. And so what actually happens here, that's my understanding, is you've got these large ocean currents, and they sort of, you must see them as large sort of eddy currents or eddies, and in the calmer regions, and those are of course huge currents that we're talking about, that's where all the plastics and whatever gets trapped, right? It gets trapped there, and it's quite calm in those areas because there's not as much motion as in the in the turbulent motions, and that's what the gyres are about.
Yeah, and to be clear, like the gyres would exist even without the plastic pollution. Like the gyres are like the currents themselves, and then but because there's so much plastic in the ocean, these gyres like also now correspond to giant collections of trash. Yay, so exciting. And Kristen, I think there's a way in the layout where you can make it so our pictures are like below the picture.
Oh yeah, I can do
Just
that.
to make it a little bit easier for people to say.
What would you like me to do? Like this or
below, I think.
below?
Do you know what I mean? Like, because we can be on top of the picture, or we can be like actually below it.
Now we are below the picture. Is that what you want, or no? Sorry, I'm not.
Just try clicking on all of them real quick.
Okay.
Maybe I'll tell you when it's the right one. Not this one. Not this one. Not this one.
Okay.
Yay.
Well, keep on
Not
clicking.
this one. Is this the? Yes, this.
You want this one?
We're like maximizing the space more.
I guess you're very choosy. I don't even know.
Well, it's just like because before we were hiding the Lesser Pacific.
Okay, that's fine.
I don't know. Someone support me in the comments. I don't think I'm being too picky, but whatever.
You've got good taste. It's all good.
Yeah. So there have been a couple papers that came out recently about these like big patches of plastic in the ocean, and how the wildlife is actually like starting to respond to them. So of course, a lot of times when you think of like plastic and wildlife, you think of animals getting trapped in plastic and caught like maybe with like plastic around its neck or something, maybe strangling to death. People also think of animals accidentally ingesting plastic, right? So everyone has probably seen those videos of like seagulls or ocean birds in particular that have just like ingested a lot of plastic either on purpose or by accident. And they've died actually from having so much like plastic that they ate accidentally instead of food. Yes, David Howden is supporting me in my in my demands for us to be out of the picture. Anyways, but a couple interesting things about these papers is that, as usual, life finds a way. And
life finds a way. Well said. Exactly.
Yeah, life finds a way. So a lot of there's starting to become, at least these papers are documenting like animal communities that are actually living on all the plastic. One of the articles said it's as if we had a whole new island that developed, right? This big island of floating plastic, and now animals are colonizing it. And that might sound like a good thing. And, maybe it is for some of those animals, but it can also be a bad thing for other animals, right? And so that is kind of one of the big themes we wanted to talk about today.
Yeah, and this came as a big surprise. I think it was first discovered I think in 1996 that there were mussels and and seaweed and a lot of the a lot of other life on these rather permanent plastic islands. And that's the difference also between the decomposable that we had before, when we had mainly wood waste, right? Because they would quickly decompose. and it wouldn't be possible for life actually to have this journey across the ocean, which they now have. And the biggest surprise actually came in the 2011 tsunami, that took a lot of the plastics and debris from Japan, from the earthquake that they had on the eastern side of Japan. And then for years, really for several years, they migrated across the Pacific. And suddenly on the other side in Hawaii and other islands in the Pacific or West, they discovered marine life there that they hadn't seen before, and they identified that of coming from Japan, and they were most surprised, Georgia. They were most surprised that this actually survived. Right, that was completely new.
Yeah, and so when you say, just to clarify, when you say like they found new animals and stuff, are you talking about like
coastal? I mean, sorry, I should say none North American in this case. It's like almost an invasive species, right? That's what I meant. Yes, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, so it is often the case, right, that like when humans start changing the environment, it has downstream effects, right? So we, for example, created cities and these urban areas. And at first, I'm sure like there's not hardly any animals there, but animals start figuring things out, like the pigeons and the rats. And I love pigeons and rats, to be clear, but they figure out like, oh, we can actually do quite well with people around. And so then those animals that invade the city, like that can then cause downstream problems for other animals that actually aren't so good with taking advantage of human resources, right? So like Christian was just saying, all this plastic pollution kind of facilitated the spread of invasive species. So that's one sort of indirect consequence it had for animals. So yeah, we have a comment here from Mara. How deeply disturbing, doubly so since the current government in the U.S. is committed to climate control and going green and completely ignoring tons of humans' waste we pollute in the oceans and also lands. With commitment and money, we could clean it up. Yeah, thanks for bringing it to light. Yeah, thanks. I think that's a really interesting comment, Mara. I agree. I mean, I think to some degree I don't think that we should choose between them necessarily. Like, I think we definitely should be trying to reduce like greenhouse gas emissions and stuff like that for climate change. And we should definitely be doing more, I think, to reduce especially how much plastic waste is going out into the world. I do think it can be a little bit sad or tricky to think about like how would we actually go about doing that. Like, for example, I know in California, they tried to like outlaw plastic bags, like those plastic bags you get at the grocery store. And they, but of course, then legally you have to like come up with a definition for what is like a disposable plastic bag. And what grocery stores ended up doing? Christian, have you heard this? Anyone in the chat know? Some of the grocery stores, to get around this rule that they weren't allowed to have disposable plastic bags, they just started making their plastic bags really thick. So then it actually increased how much plastic is getting put into the environment, right?
I didn't know.
Yeah. Oh. So it can be, Isa has it. Yeah. So like basically if the plastic bag was thick enough, it, according to the legal definition, it wasn't like a disposable single-use piece of plastic. And so then they could get around the law. And then, so it, it can be tricky to legislate these things. And I totally agree, like we should probably be doing more to clean it up too. But to some extent, prevention, I think like prevention is often like more cost effective than cleaning it up after the fact. You know what I mean? Like if we, like per dollar we spent on prevention, we would probably have to spend like $10 then to clean it up the same amount of plastic, because it's like, it's easier to stop the plastic from ever getting created than to like go out to the ocean and get it. So I think like, man, that's my personal opinion. Prevention, when it comes to taking care of your health, when it comes to taking care of the planet, like try to prevent doing damage as much as possible.
Yeah, and that's, I'm just reading out Gentleman Ghost's question, your side question. Are these gyres so big that they affect navigation or risk to ships or small sailing vessels. So I'm going to answer that question with a question to you, and that'll answer it. So what do you think the biggest contributor of plastic waste is? And David Howden, please be quiet. You have already answered it. So, but that is the question. What is the biggest contributor of plastic? What do you think?
Yeah, and maybe while people are throwing in their answers for that,
Yes.
we can talk about this. Yeah, some people mentioned in the comments like charging 10 cents per plastic bag. That is another thing that they enacted in some states, at least in California. And it sounds like also David Howden says in the UK they have a mandatory charge for plastic bags. So that's another way to like de-incentivize like plastic use, especially for disposable plastics. Yeah, and Isa, I totally agree. Prevention is the best.
Yes.
And Debsa says, here in Canada, Walmart discontinued plastic bags and use sturdy paper bags for online orders and in-store. Christian, you concur? You fellow
Absolutely. I have them, look, we're all guilty of this, right? I'm also very guilty of wasting plastic. I just have to look around how much plastic I have around here. I mean, this is clear, right? So all we can do, the best we can do, is reduce it. But we are part of this plastic life cycle. And apart from that, let me just ask a quick question: how much plastic do you think is produced per year? Just
You're
as
throwing all kinds of questions out there. Okay, so what do you think is the number one contributor to this plastic
that's the
garbage
one.
patch, ocean garbage patches? And also Kit Kat has, I guess, laundry containers. There's another guess,
and David
plastic water bottles.
Yeah, that's what I thought, David. That's what I thought, right?
Keep giving us your guesses.
Keep
And
going.
also you want to know how much plastic. You want people
And
to guess
how much is it actually?
per
maybe
like year that gets into these ocean?
Yeah, you know what's very difficult sometimes is to think of tons and so on. It doesn't mean anything. So so Terry Green says 3 tons per year. It's always difficult to think in tons. Maybe I should say, in how many people do you think?
How many people worth of plastic?
In weight, because I always try and make things more visual.
Okay,
right?
I'll convert Terry's guess for them. I'm going to see how many 3 tons to pounds. So 3 tons is 6,000 pounds. And I'm going to say if each person is like 150 pounds, then that's
the average person is 162 pounds per definition.
Well, I'm getting very briefly, like 40 people. That can't be right. That's not enough.
3 tons.
3 tons. Okay, is
okay. Sean says 500,000 tons. Okay, so far, look, I'm going to let David Howden jump back into the discussion now, because nobody seems to have hit so far.
Wait, I want guesses. You're not going to let me guess. So here, full disclosure, Christian told me the answer at the beginning of the episode before we went live, and I forgot it. So my guesses are completely legitimate. I'm looking at the picture that you have up here, and there's like a lot of buoys and this plastic, but I don't think that's it. What about like, plastic bags are a good one, but they're not. Each plastic bag is like a small amount of volume.
I mean, do you think, for example,
food containers of some kind? I guess I don't know how specific the category is.
Yeah.
It seems like a lot of food from the grocery stores in like temporary plastic packaging of some kind.
Yeah, David, do you want to put in your David Howden, who just put in a comment? I'm just curious to hear where you think the main contributor in the ocean of plastic is coming from. I'm just I think you actually answered it in the beginning, and it's right on the picture. Actually, now I'm giving you a real hint.
It is in the picture? Wait, oh my gosh, I have to look more closely. Can you take away our pictures for a minute to make the picture big?
Yeah, sure.
Or
fishing, yes, there we go. Fishing. That's it.
Yeah, he did mention that in the beginning.
And this is actually really not good news, because let me switch off my phone, because fish that is causing a lot of problems, of course, also for a lot of wildlife, and we see that with eagles and many things the way they get caught up in it, it's really from fishing nets. It's quite horrendous. I think it's 70 something percent or close to 80%, right? Is horrendous. We wouldn't think that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, here's another. So, like, David Howden also mentioned that, like, a lot of the stuff he receives is in, like, these biodegradable cornstarch bags now. And, like, I'm seeing more and more plastic takeout containers that are technically compostable. Like, they're not really plastic, but they sort of look and feel a lot like plastic, but they are, like, compostable more so. So yeah, I definitely, but as he's also hinting, it's actually kind of like hard to compost them. And if you just throw them into like a landfill, they often don't compost because like landfills aren't good environments for biodegradation, because there's so much trash there that's like not biodegrading.
Yes, so we answer that. So just to the so we've got some really wild statistics here from how much it actually is. So I'll give you the answer. It's always easier to, I always try and remember figures somehow and not too much in metric tons because I forget that quickly. But it's very simple actually. It's as much as the whole human race weighs. That's the equivalent of how much plastic, and that's 300 million tons. That's the complete biomass of the human race. That's how much we produce per year. Okay, so that's just the indication. Then you can remember it.
I guess, because that makes sense though, because honestly, I wouldn't be that surprised if I threw away my weight in plastic per year.
Yeah. So of course
Not at
you
all.
can't multiply 7.9 billion, whatever the population is now, times the average. It's not like that because you're taking a lot of babies and whatever into account. So actually, I think if I remember correctly, it's equivalent to about 268 million adults. Well, so it's a bit less than the total population of the United States. That's how you can remember it.
Wait, the population of the US or the world?
US, yeah, because
Okay.
it's 300, what's the US? 350 or something like that, 350 million, no, 320 million, I think it is.
Yeah.
320 million. So it's a bit less than that. If you take the average, let's take that's well, yeah, but if you took the average weight of that, you come to about 280 million adults. That's what it comes to. That's a lot, right?
It is a lot.
That's a lot. So yeah. So
Yeah.
that's so you can say it's the equivalent of the total population of the world per year. Just remember that one.
Yeah, so that just to sum up, per year, the amount of plastic that gets added to the oceans is about the same mass as the amount of people, the mass of all the people currently on Earth.
Yes, and I don't think I think it's not the total. I think, Georgia, let me just check my stats
Okay,
here.
I'll let you check. Yeah, I'll look at, there was one comment, all the more reason to go vegetarian, vegan. Issa, I'm curious what you mean by that, because I think going vegetarian, I often think of it in terms of like reducing your carbon footprint, but I've never thought about it that much in terms of reducing your plastic footprint. So I'm curious, tell us more about that or what you're thinking, because that caught me. I do want to share, speaking of biodegradable plastic products, or I should say plastic products, I did get a new product, a new environmentally friendly anti-plastic swap that I made, and I'll be right back with it. Christian, I'll get that while you clarify your stats for us.
Oh yeah, that's quite interesting. So I'm going to give you some more. So this is what I find so fascinating is how much, let's get a little bit on the lighter side. So the human population of the total biomass that is on Earth is about 1/10,000. Okay, so 1/10,000 contributes the total biomass on Earth. So what do you think? Where does most of the biomass actually come from? I mean, that's not difficult to guess, but where do you think most of the weight, the biomass actually comes from? Any guesses there? Let's see, because it's all interesting. We know now how much waste we're producing, and we'll relate that to the oceans in a moment.
Yeah.
But I would be interested to see what you think. If we contribute only 1/10,000, which is 0.01%, of the total biomass. Where is all that biomass? Right.
Yeah. We have a comment from Terry. It was currently announced that plastic microparticles are found in humans. That's
Yes.
damn straight. If like fish and birds and stuff are getting plastic in them, you bet that people are too, because
Yes.
we're also eating fish. I mean, the plastic microplastics, which are tiny, tiny little bits of plastic, are getting into animals, and then we eat animals. And so it
And
gets into
David,
us.
you're close. That's the second largest. 13% of the total biomass is bacteria. So that's a lot more than human. You're right. That's the small scale. You got it.
Yeah.
So
Even a lot
once
of the biomass in people is bacteria or
that's correct.
other
So
microbes. Yeah.
where is the major 82% of the biomass coming from? Right, it's plants, trees. I'll tell you now. It's plants, trees. But you're absolutely right. Then 13% is bacteria, and humans contribute only 0.01% of that.
Yeah.
Right. So, and you would need 70 trillion people. Let's not hope it ever happens to equate the Earth's collective biomass.
Yeah.
Just interesting, isn't it? So, okay.
Can I share my screen real quick?
Oh,
Because
of
I do want to.
course,
We've
go,
kind of been
go,
talking about this patch and the papers for a
go.
little bit,
Oh no,
but
that's not your screen. Sorry,
we
where's your
didn't
screen?
really share the papers yet. So
Oh,
one,
no, we have been so excited. We know
yeah,
the papers off by heart. That's why we don't share them anymore.
yeah. So one was a bioarchive paper, which this is just basically a place that hosts scientific papers that haven't gone through the peer review process yet, or that at least they haven't been formally accepted.
Mhm.
But this paper is high concentrations of floating life in the North Pacific garbage patch, with the lead author is Fiona Chong. And then another paper, which was published in this past December in Nature Communications, emergence of a neopelagic community through the establishment of coastal species on the high seas. And so this is getting at that shift in understanding of, or the shift in like species distributions and stuff because of this big ocean plastic like garbage patches. And this author is Lindsay Haram. So I just wanted to share those real quick before we got like too far away.
Good. I shared more the popular article, which then refers to the Nature article too. But it's a very good summary, that one that
Yeah.
I just put in. So
Oh wait, did I actually share my screen before? Or
no,
did I
you
not?
did. You did not. So
I did not. Oh crap. I was reading it and I thought that people could see. All right, add my screen real quick. I'll just flash these papers. So there's the Nature Communications one, and here's the bioarchive one. Okay. Oh, it looks like there's a newer version of the article. Anyways, sometimes they do that. They update. Okay, I'll stop sharing. Yay. Yeah, and James Bourne, Gentleman Ghost, is finding in some facts in here that a lot of this plastic pollution is coming from some debris rivers in Asia, where
yep.
like a lot of places like where trash ends up in the river for various reasons, and then of course rivers flow out to the ocean, and so that can be a big contributor.
Yeah, by the way, just to get the stats right, so
Mhm.
we produce 300 million tons of plastic per year, and 8.3 million tons at the moment goes into ocean. If you want to see what this means, now the bit, oh, I've got this wrong again, George, I haven't done it. Yes, there we go. Okay, that's better. So we are somewhere around here right now. So this is cumulative. So just imagine we put 300 million tons every year in, and it's accumulating, plus it's increasing, everything, right? So by 2015, we will have about 4 times that. So we're going to reach somewhere around 25 billion, not this is million metric tons. But wait a minute, this can't be correct because it is in the billions. That's strange. I'm quite sure this is not millions. This should cumulative. It should be actually 25 billion or so. Let me just
Wait, sorry. This is the tons. This is how much plastic gets added to
Yeah,
the
yeah. So here,
capture
yeah.
here.
So here we go. Yeah, we have 25,000 million, which is 25 billion metric tons of waste generation by 2050. I think they made a mistake here. Yeah. So this is it's much worse. So we have 25 billion tons of waste by 2050. That's 4 times the amount that we have now. That's the prediction, right? If we
Yikes.
don't change, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to share
Sure.
because I know my mom is watching because she just texted me, and because we were talking about plastic alternatives to try to avoid having all this stuff get into the ocean. One story my mom told me from when she was growing up about her realizing how much plastic pollution accumulates, especially like in water, just like, it flows into water or whatever. So this wasn't in the ocean, but this was in one of the Great Lakes. This was in, I think, Lake Erie, she said it was. And she said she remembered going to Lake Erie and there being all this plastic that had built up in one of the like sort of shoreline areas of the lake. Yeah, David says hello to my mom. She hasn't said anything in the chat yet, but because she's texting me at the same time, I know she's here. But anyway, she said that, what a lot of the plastic was that was floating on the top of Lake Erie that she saw? Tons and tons of tampon applicators for tampons for when you're in your period. So recently, there's all kinds of alternative like feminine hygiene care products you can use. But recently when I was at the grocery store, and there's like definitely like zero plastic things you can use. But recently when I was at the grocery store, I saw this new brand and
it's mirrored, unfortunately.
oh, sorry, it's mirrored. So it says like, or it's like organic cotton, whatever. Yeah. But it also says somewhere on here, wait, where is it? With bioplastic applicator, right? Which I was like, I didn't have really the mental capacity to do more searching on it. So I wasn't, but it says that it's like plant, like cellulose based, like plastic that they use, basically soft bioplastic applicator. And then it also refers to it as kind of like a waxy thing. So if anyone wants to like research this brand,
that's interesting. So just to talk about degradables of plastic. So again, I'm sorry, here I come with statistics again, but 80% of our plastic waste is actually lands in landfills or in the ocean. 80%. So only I think about 9% is biodegradable at that moment, at this moment, and the rest is incinerated, right? So 80% is serious, and 50% of all that waste is one-time use, like plastic bottles or whatever, right? So we are incredibly wasteful. Also, plastic typically lasts before it degrades 500 to 1,000 years, depending, of course, on the chemical composition. If you look at biodegradable plastic, my understanding is it takes about a year. But if there's any expert here, you can correct me. But that's from my reading. That's
I think the biodegradable plastic, it varies widely based on like what kinds of conditions it's in. But yeah, like definitely the non-biodegradable plastic takes, hundreds of years, like a long time. And it basically the plastic that you use is going to long outlive you, or it's going to be in the environment longer than you will be alive, which is a terrifying thought. So I often, when I decide to buy something that's like a single-use plastic item, I'm like, oh, it's just like a little choice. You know what I mean? It feels like a little choice. It's like, it feels harmless, but then it's like, wow, that one little harmless choice has kind of like global consequences for, I don't know, that will long outlive me. And like one piece of plastic can affect the environment many times. One piece of plastic could kill an animal many times.
Oh, yes.
Because it breaks, like it could, strangle one animal, and then as it breaks down and becomes smaller little bits of microplastic, it could kill other animals or contribute to the death of other animals through them like ingesting it. So yeah, it's nuts to think about. David or Christian, do we have more pictures to share of like animals using the Pacific patch, or I could look up some more?
Yeah, well, what I can say, I mean, I think you mentioned it in the beginning, and I think I also saw it. Let me just read this from Gentleman Ghost very quickly so we don't forget him. 10 rivers discharged 90% of all marine debris, 2 in Africa and the rest in Asia. Helmholtz Center for Environment Research, no pushing blame. Just thought it was amazing. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah. Well, and I do want to add to that because, yeah, we mentioned it briefly earlier, but a lot of those, I think I did look at something that talked about those rivers specifically, and it's not like the people in Asia are just like necessarily like, let's dump all our trash into this river. A lot of it is actually trash that gets shipped from the US to Asia
You're right.
and then out. So it's not necessarily like, it's still us to some degree.
Yeah, but
So it's
it's
like, yeah, it's not necessarily like just those
oh,
countries.
and it's not
It's
only
like,
the US and
yeah,
Germany. I remember the same story. Oh, we want to be when I was there, we want to be environmentally clean, so it was shipped to China. Now that is, of course, that was a few years ago. This hopefully has stopped now, and because the Chinese didn't have such strict environmental laws, it landed back in the ocean. That's what happens, right? Or in landfills and so on. So you're right. That's the way it is.
yeah.
Hmm.
And I guess I'm going to find some more pictures of, because we talked a lot about like, oh, all these different animals can use the plastic garbage patch, but then we didn't really show, like, there's more pictures associated with the paper and stuff, or with the papers, I should say. Do you have them, or do you want me to pull up some?
I don't have I can. Do you want to share it quickly?
I'll just share my screen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
it's not like the most professional
oh,
thing,
that's
but
okay.
that's fine. So sorry, I'll just share my entire screen. It will be fine, but you'll have to help me with comments. Yeah, so this was it this paper? No, it was this paper. We looked at this picture,
Mhm.
which was a figure associated with the
Yes.
Nature Communications paper. Again, that's this paper by Harriman et al. From the end of last year. There's also this figure, which, and I actually don't remember which paper it was, but one of the papers found over 40 different species living in the plastic samples that they collected from the garbage patch. And then this is showing, actually, what is this showing? So there's some different mussel species growing on here. There's an isopod, which is, if you know pill bugs or roly-polies,
Uh-huh.
there's marine versions of those, basically. They're actually not that hard to find. So those were found living in these plastic floating debris things. C shows a mass of derelict fishing gear. So we talked a little bit about how much like fishing waste is here. Oh, maybe that was, yeah, Isa had a comment earlier about being vegetarian helping reduce plastic pollution. So I guess that would be one way. If you're not contributing to the fishing industry, then I guess through that sort of indirect route, you're also not contributing to the plastic pollution from fishing. That makes sense now. Yeah, and then D, neopelagic community attached to derelict fishing net. So that's here. So that's showing different types of marine organisms and species, I guess, growing on the equipment. I don't really know what I'm looking at there because I don't spend that much time looking at I don't spend that much time looking at like ocean animals. But that's one of the figures from the paper. And then I think that's all the figures they had in that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't think that the other one, I'm trying to remember if it had figures. Oh, it did. I liked the figures in this one a lot. Can you see this?
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. So what is this actually showing us? So these are some of the organisms that were represented in this study. Top-down view of by the wind sailor, which I don't know what kind of animal that is. Blue button, Portuguese man o' war. I know that's some kind of jellyfish. A violet snail, and blue sea dragon. So these are, I guess, like all different types of organisms that were found associated sort of like near these plastic pollution areas, which is kind of cool. And I think like I guess to get it a little bit at the ecology of it, the open ocean is one of the lowest biodiversity places in the planet. So there's, if you think about comparing like just like a square meter of the open ocean, like the surface of the ocean, versus like a square meter of like tropical rainforest or something, there's going to be a lot more animals in the tropical rainforest. So just kind of like open water, open ocean is not associated with that many species. But
Wow.
you make this artificial floating island, and then you have suddenly like surface area. You can have like, I don't know, algae or stuff grow on it, like nutrients getting trapped there, animals crawling around on it. Like it starts to build this whole like brand new ecosystem, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yes, and David Halden says, I think by the wind sailor is also a jellyfish. By the way, this is also part of the problem. First of all, there are so many microplastic particles, right? And they're floating around everywhere. They're floating around in our blood. They're in newborns, right? It's amazing. We mentioned that in the beginning, and also unfortunately, a lot of birds and sea life they eat these small plastics because it's either it is somehow they mistaken them for jellyfish. For example, turtles will mistaken um, plastic, just plastic. They're photos of sea turtles going for cups or so. There's no way for them to distinguish this. And sometimes because they're just directly associated with it, either they've already swallowed the plastic or so on, and that gets their stomachs get blocked, their whole intestinal system gets blocked, and so on. And unfortunately, eventually they die. So sorry, that's the counterpart of the very interesting story that Georgia is just just alluded to. But I think the amount of marine life, it is estimated that about 100 million marine animals die each year from plastic waste alone, and 100,000 marine animals die getting entangled in plastic yearly, and that's about 750. What was it? 750,000 tons of fishing lines. You can't even imagine this. These are crazy numbers, right? So,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. And then we have other good comments like from Jamie. She's commenting that, or Sheer here is commenting that like a lot of this plastic waste does actually get incinerated instead of ending up in
That's
the ocean as well.
that's
So,
what I said. Yes, that's right.
oh, sorry.
But
Yeah, I totally missed it. I was
but
checking.
but but not that much. Just to tell you, it's about 12% of the total gets incinerated, 9% recycled, and 79% is sent to landfills and oceans. So it's not that much, really. Yeah. So we have to do a lot better.
Well, and incinerating plastic is also not good.
There
So
you go. They're
basically,
byproducts and so
plastic is a
on.
big problem.
They're the inorganic components that are, well, I don't know what they all entail, but you're right. Yeah. But I mean, the best we can do is also start with ourselves. That's always the same. We go to energy. We go, which you're very well doing already, Georgia. I know about
Mhm.
plastic use, about uses of oil, and so on and so on. Just start with ourselves. It's always the best.
Yeah, with prevention.
Hmm.
Um, I want to share another figure from this
Hmm.
bioarchive paper, which part of the findings of their paper was that there's more biodiversity like towards the center of the plastic patch um, than there is like towards the outside. So I think this is showing their like sampling maybe path. And this blob is presumably like the mass of like the Pacific Ocean like gyre of
Yes,
plastic. And you can actually see, so like here's the coast of California, here's I think Hawaii. So this thing is
it's
huge.
huge, isn't it? It
Huge.
goes right across to Japan almost. It's crazy, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
yeah. It kind of like continues
yeah,
on even like
yeah, yeah.
past Hawaii. So
Mm.
anyway, um so I mean that's kind of similar if you think of like I guess like if this habitat quote unquote is preferred to many animals compared to the open ocean, or like they can't live as well in the open ocean, then they're going to be more highly concentrated in the center of it. And I should say, like, jellyfish are a big problem in general, because jellyfish actually many species of jellyfish do pretty well with different forms of human pollution,
Is that
aquatic
right?
pollution. Yeah. Okay. So having too many jellyfish relative to like other species can be a problem, like in some areas of the ocean. In addition to, like you said, like sometimes like sea turtles and things like are mistaking plastic for jellyfish. Like also the jellyfish like don't mind as much. I think it's like warmer water and like low oxygen water. So yeah, but a lot of other species like don't do as well. Yeah.
Right.
Which is a shame for me because I really love jellyfish. Actually, I have a jellyfish tattoo. I don't know if you can
Oh,
see
you
it.
do? Hey,
Yeah.
that's wonderful. I didn't know you're into tattoos, Georgia. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good. Okay.
So, well, we're coming up on the hour. I guess, does anyone have any more questions or comments about thoughts on the Pacific Ocean plastic patch, or what we can do to reduce our plastic use, or what these like shifting, I guess, norms of nature are going to mean that we're creating?
Well, on the positive side, that's maybe one thing we should mention. There's a lot of research going on, fortunately, into how to cope with plastic waste, and there are some innovative solutions coming up, right? But it's not going to happen without our help, right? We all have to help.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing my screen as we wrap up here. So I do want to say thank you so much to everyone for joining again. We had great participation today. Next week, same time, we're going to be talking about vulture conservation.
Oh,
Vultures,
yes.
wonderful, important, misunderstood birds that are often of
Oh,
conservation concern.
beautiful birds, really.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible. So
And we're going to actually have, are we going to have a guest?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. An expert on, he's from I think worldvultures.org, and his name is Jose Tavares, and he's an absolute expert on vultures, and he's going to talk about these wonderful birds. So,
yeah, definitely. And yeah, David Howden, I have heard of the microbes that eat plastic. And originally people were like, oh, maybe these microbes that eat plastic are going to help like eat away all the plastic. Maybe, I think that would be great if it does happen. I've got my fingers crossed. Yeah, so as usual, follow us on whatever platform you're watching from right now.
and join us on Facebook. We're going to put more and more there, and also we're going to get some help now to really improve our show. We could mention that too, right?
Yeah, no. So we have decided to bring on some help to help us like prepare topics and sources beforehand. So definitely, we're still, as always, like accepting requests and suggestions from the audience.
Yes.
But Suman, who is the guy who's going to be helping us, he's going to start getting together sources and also like reaching out to people to do interviews on the show, so that hopefully we can have more, with his help, we'll be able to like schedule and bring in more interviewers and like people with different areas of expertise. So that helps because it just really expands our capacity to give you guys a high quality show. So we're really excited about that. Yeah.
And thanks to Isa too for helping us on Twitch. I appreciate it, and thank you for that very kind comment. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
All right. Bye, everyone. See you next week.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much for your participation. We appreciate it.